If there's one thing gamers know, it's that there's an inexhaustible amount of excuses you can blame for losing in a video game. And one thing I am very familiar with ever since I came back to Apex is that very thing. Losing. Most of the time, it's fairly easy to identify why I lose my fights. Popping a bat over a shield swap here, missing shots when I really shouldn't be there, or queuing up with Birdie. You wanna talk about it, or...?
I thought there was a floor there.
While pointing at your teammates to take away from your own failures is a great and surefire way of feeling better about your gameplay, it isn't something I can always rely on. There will be times where my delusion is shattered and I can't help but admit that I made a mistake, and that is particularly frustrating when it happens following what is an otherwise really good play. I mean, take this clip as an example. Here I am on Kings Canyon, Birdie was just turned into fertilizer, and I was about to be pushed by two teams from two different sides. What does my 300,000 IQ mental CPU produce as a solution? Spit down a smoke on every side, escape over the high ground while none of these teams are any wiser and end up fighting each other. And you know, if I had remembered to bind the button for that deployable respawn beacon, there's even a good chance we could have won that game. But alas, I got rolled as a result of that bind missing and me being scared of going into my menu mid-game. You would really assume that after that striking defeat I would have remembered to finally bind that button, but since that match was part of my once-in-a-blue moon dropping to Apex evenings, I just didn't care enough to do that, as is evidenced by our last episode. And well, let's just say that you guys weren't shy to point that out in the comment section. What makes today's episode special is that I am going to take on the role of teacher. That's right, my friends, the guy that refuses to armor swap, forgot to bind gameplay critical items, and the one who is getting absolutely rolled by SBMM, I, of all people, am going to try to teach another new player. So equip that golden knockdown shield, get into the backseat, and prepare yourself for a really hot match. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Apex Duos. Now obviously, there's more than one way to get better at video games. From pro player analysis to reviewing your own gameplay, it's not like we're short on ideas on how to achieve our goal. But for degenerates like Birdie and I, we like to hot drop as often as humanly possible until we come out victorious. In our minds, competence is something that is forged in the fiery depths of competition, and what better way to challenge yourself than with a hot drop? But well, that does not work for everybody. While the two of us could eventually brute force our way to victory when given enough chances, Josh found himself a bit frustrated over the fact that he couldn't keep up with our pace. So for him to learn how to play the game, I had to make sure we don't end up mowed down within the first minute of the match. And as much as my experience on Olympus is extremely limited, we had run it down mid often enough to see the pattern of which locations players in our lobbies preferred, so we could make an educated guess for an alternative drop. Thankfully, nobody else dropped anywhere near us, allowing Josh to loot up to his heart's content before engaging in combat. It was a bit unusual for me to have so much choice in what weapon we want to carry. Usually I'll be fine with whatever Mozambique combo the game gives me on a hot drop, but here I became the victim of analysis paralysis. Either way, I wouldn't say no to the, at that point in time, not yet nerfed Bocek. With our inventories filled to the brim, we made our way to the next location where I was trying to explain our current situation to Josh so that he can make the most educated decisions in his moment-to-moment gameplay. We're back at the same spot where, you know, we don't hear any gunshots, there's no combat momentum, we don't know where to go. And if we fire the first shot, some camping squad is gonna be, you know, frothing at their mouths, being like, haha, now is our time.
Do you have, oh, I hear people close.
His awareness was not to be underestimated. Josh was right, there was indeed somebody in our building. At that point, it was very important to have Josh continue sticking to me as closely as possible. If he gets into trouble, at least I could then try to help him. But weirdly enough, as I was clearing out the building, I didn't immediately see anyone, though there were definite signs of somebody being around.
Oh, left.
Okay, they can't go through there now. Can you die already, sir? Stairs?
Wing. Oh, nice, very nice, very nice.
Ah, yes, ye old faithful double punch in the same time it takes to reload your gun. Sticking together was definitely worth it. I doubt they heard us coming the same way we heard them, and we all know what it feels like to be the last man standing in a squad that just got caught out. Winning that fight was a huge confidence boost for Josh, who was just previously part of my hot drop mania, in which we accumulated more rapid deaths than the Black Plague. And ironically enough, that combat momentum I'd referenced earlier would now allow us to take that confidence into the next fight. And he's down. Behind the box over there. Can you suppress him? I'll heal up. It was at that moment that I realized that Josh did not have the quick acting habit that comes with hundreds of hours of Apex experience. While my immediate action after winning a fight is getting ready for the inevitable third squad, Josh was still yet to heal himself back up to any capacity. Of course, I would have not asked him to hold down the fort if I had realized it earlier, but it was a lesson in keeping up pressure on the enemy while your squad mates are healing. I wanted to give him a helping hand, however... I forgot I was not lifeline. He's 1 HP. I'm pushing that.
Oh, I'm recharging. Hang on 1 second.
I'll be fine.
I'll cover you. Come up here.
He did not know what hit him. The matchmaking gods had been kind to us. It appeared as though I lost enough consecutive matches in a row for the game to bless me with a bit of an easier lobby. I'm certain Josh was appreciative of the fact that he didn't find himself immediately down during these fights, though the way I was playing really made it apparent that quick thinking and quick acting are very important in this game. The one thing I was absolutely not quick on the draw with myself was looting. The game has added a boatload of new weapons and items since the last time I was grinding it, and while sliding and shooting were things that came back to me, inventory management was not on that list. But little did I know that Josh too needed a bit of a refresher on that subject.
He had 2 Phoenix kits. Do you need 1? I've got 3.
No, I'm good. You don't need 3, by the way. Having 1 is like enough usually.
Do you need extended energy? Do you need light ammo?
I'm good. I need a light mag is what I need.
I have a purple light mag for you. I was just about to say that before we got into those fights. I have a purple and that and that and this and this and this.
What the heck?
I was just picking up everything. That was all from the boxing ring.
You're like Loot Santa.
I need heavy ammo though.
That's something I cannot help you with, unfortunately. Now, I will admit that I was under the impression that Josh was just as overwhelmed as I was over all the new items that have been added to the game since launch. He had a little more experience with the game than what was prevalent at Season 1, and probably didn't want to annoy me by asking about every single piece of loot that he hadn't seen before. But when we began following the sound of gunshots, I couldn't help but notice that he was trailing behind. Maybe a bit of a lesson in my own personal looting philosophy might be necessary. Josh?
Yo.
You're taking a while.
I was opening all those boxes you just ran past for heavy ammo.
I mean, if you have a wingman, you don't need a lot of heavy. It's fine.
Oh, and my other one's a hemlock, though. That's the problem.
Bruh. Okay, here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
The thing you do when you need loot is you take it from other players.
Fair point. And a good strat.
I have to say that my philosophy of looting in Apex was heavily influenced just by how I enjoy playing the game. I absolutely hate spending 15 minutes looting in preparation for a fight just to then get shot up by a squad that was camping in some corner for the entire game. And that's one of the beautiful things about Apex. When things go wrong and we lose, we can just go and queue up again immediately, probably finding a new lobby within the minute. As such, I just didn't see the point in trying to spend too much time preparing to play the game, rather than just, well, playing the game. And that was even more applicable now that both him and I really needed the practice to get better. Though as much as I was itching to get into another fight, I definitely didn't want to be reckless about it. Having secured the high ground, Josh and I used the opportunity to scout over the map to see where the other squads were currently at, as well as where they were headed. I eventually concluded that taking a fight in and around the PlayStation 5 looking building was probably our best bet. I will admit though that this was not a location I'd previously spent a lot of time at, especially considering the fact that I barely ever played on Olympus, meaning at this point the only thing I could rely on were my instincts. Somebody here. Cracked. And he's running. He was a solo. Okay, another squad pinged over there. Hide. They heard the shots. Oh god. I'm healing. Don't take too much damage. Let them come. Behind us. Focus here. Pincer.
On the right. Pop the shield.
Take the shield right now. Take the shield, quick. Playing a legend I rarely ever touched on a map I barely ever played, all the while trying to teach someone else how to play the game. Yeah, most of my decisions at that point really were led by pure instinct. I tried to articulate my thoughts as I was playing, so Josh knew what to do, as well as trying to help him understand why we did the things I suggested. The last survivor of this PS5 mini battle royale was a lonely wraith who made a desperate attempt to recover the squadmate's banner. Unfortunately for her, I was not about to let her get away with it, and after a rather short-lived chase, all of her loot was ours. As far as new player experiences go, that fight was all sorts of crazy, and us coming out alive was definitely a bit of an achievement, though little did I know at that point that this engagement we just had would be child's play compared to what we were about to face. Now, I do understand that many things that are impressive and really cool to me are not quite so impressive to many of you. But if you think back to your first days of playing Apex, I'm sure you can agree that surviving intense gunfights like the last one make for very memorable experiences. What would be even more memorable for my friend Josh over here is if we could win this match. While Birdie and I did succeed in collecting a few wins ever since our return to the game, Josh had not been quite so lucky. As such, I made the decision for us to take a stealthing approach from here on out. We continued securing high ground positions that allowed us to locate rotating squads. Information at this stage in the game especially was the #1 thing keeping us alive, so needless to say that we were trying our hardest to spot every last remaining squad. After several successful high ground rotations, we found ourselves with 5 other squads remaining, only 2 of which we knew the immediate location of. Our current position was not within the circles, so when we heard gunshots coming from the north, we decided to use that opportunity to relocate. Okay, was that there? It is, right?
Yes, there it is. I see traces coming over here.
Okay, let's go.
Just ignore that completely. Absolute failure of a zipline I just did.
I usually do. Over there.
Yeah, I see
if you can take
there.
shot, feel free. I'll try to back you up because I don't have the range for this.
There's no... I still have no idea what the travel time is on this thing. I'm useless. Come on.
70. 70.
Got him.
Very nice, very nice. If you have grenades, then try to finish him. Okay, periodically check your 6, alright?
I see nothing.
Do you want to... Okay, I see her. She's down here, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where exactly she's hiding.
Oh,
Run. Run, 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 run.
oh wait.
Just commit to this one below us here.
Okay.
Okay,
Nice
take a shield immediately. Because these guys might drop down for us. We've been lucky enough to get the drop on people more than once in this game, and the one time we didn't, we barely survived the encounter. The smartest thing for us to do now was run away, hide, and hope that the other squad heard these gunshots and came to third party. But unfortunately, these guys were more tenacious than I anticipated. Making use of the high ground we had to forsake, they began firing down at us, much to the detriment of our healing supplies. I was trying to make sure that Josh can get some space to breathe, and usually cracking every member of an enemy squad means they are not very likely to push into us. They definitely had the upper hand though, and I was having trouble anticipating their next move. It is entirely possible that they could see us as easy prey, causing them to hunt us down with reckless abandon. As much as that didn't make sense in my head in light of the fact that this means they would give up the high ground, the thought lingered in my head as I guided Josh away from that area, while this time reminding him to heal up. Getting pushed by these guys put us in a really bad position. It was time to rotate back to high ground, just that we weren't the only ones trying to do so. They're probably gonna be waiting for us on high, so be ready to zip away if we can. That's 2.
I'll see if I can get... Oh, behind you as well.
Yeah, I'm stuck between 2 squads right now.
I'll try and get the guys on the high ground, and then you have an exit strategy.
Okay, we need to focus the guys that you're on right now. I'm healing right now. I had messed up in a big way. I was supposed to guide Josh to victory, and instead, I left him for the wolves. While I was trying to hide from prying eyes, he was getting lit up until nothing but a Swiss cheese-looking robot husk remained. That in itself was already weighing heavy on my conscience, but what was even worse was that my chances of winning this game dwindled as I found myself stuck between 2 squads. And this is why I made a critical mistake. Aiming for the lowest hanging fruit, I was firing into the squad that tried to rotate up on high, not realizing that taking them out means I had to fight the last team all on my my own on top of them being in a very strong position. I kept taking pot shots at them to give myself the best possible chance, but the damage was already done. It was now a 2v1v1 with me having murderized that Octane's friend. As soon as the ring forces me out of my cover, both of us are gonna get lit up by that remaining full squad, on top of there being no guarantee that he won't lay into me as well. If only I had an item that allowed me to postpone my rotation so that I am not the first one that ends up in the crossfire. But alas, the ring was coming, and I was about to see the error of my ways. They're only focusing on me right now. No, it's great. I don't have my heat shield down. Dang it! Dude, that was such a good game though. Whew. And with that ends my pathetic attempt of being a teacher while still trying to learn myself. You know, it's funny, this is probably the 4th or 5th time that me not having that button bound ended up putting me in a tight situation. Though I am glad to report that I have finally, at long last, rectified that mistake. After that game, I was convinced that before I tried to teach anybody else, I should look for a mentor of my own. And well, I may have found just the right one, so make sure you guys are subscribed to not miss out on the next episode, during which I'm going to try and somehow impress my friend Candy Room. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and definitely ring that bell icon to not miss out on my next upload. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and until next time, peace!